I've been using MCP server from a long time and I wanted to know how to build one. So I built one MCP server with Next.js. There are plenty of ways to build MCP server which I've already shown. Now today I will be showing how to host one with some simple example of how to build one so that you understand how to host MCP server for free or maybe with few dollars, and at the same time you can use MCP server for your own personal use case or maybe if you want to sell it to someone. So let's get into the implementation. So the first item which we have on how to host MCP server, and that is NATM. It might sound like it might sound that it is no code tool, but it is a great example if you are hosting MCP server for your own personal use case. You don't care about selling it. So let's get into it, how to build MCP server for your own use case. So I have a console of like NA10, and you can see I have two MCP demos which I have created. So let's get into it one by one. So this is one MCP server. So how NA10 works, we have to create MCP server trigger. So whenever your MCP server, your MCP client sends a request to MCP server, it actually triggers this endpoint and it uses SSC, server sent events. And whenever it is triggered, it calls the Google Sheet. So you can see we are calling get rows. So whatever rows in this sheet we have in sheet 1 in Reddit scraper, that data will be sent to our MCP client, and our MCP client can comprehend that data according to its own use case. So this is one of the use case. Now this is only for one tool call, but if you want to build one workflow, like your MCP client will call, your MCP server will do 2 or 3 actions. Now how to do that? So that's why we have created another workflow. So here you can see this is again a trigger. Whenever this gets triggered, we called a workflow. So if I go to this workflow, let me open this workflow if I can open it. Go to sub workflow. And you can see whenever this is executed by another workflow, we are calling AP5. You can see we are calling AP5, and the results we are getting, we are sorting it, we are filtering it, we are limiting it, and then we are setting the field and then returning it back to the MCP client. So this is the workflow which is happening behind the scene whenever our MCP client calls this MCP trigger. And setting this MCP server is very easy. Now let's see how to do this. So obviously this is the test URL and this is the production URL. Whenever you are testing something, you can use the test URL, and whenever you go live, you can do production URL. Now let's come for the credentials. You can use authentication. So let's come to the authentication first. You can use non-authentication if you're using for personal use case and you know that this endpoint will not be public, then you can set no authentication. But my recommendation would be to set an authentication, and you can use either header auth or you can use either bearer auth. So bearer auth is something like you give the token to it, and header auth is something which we send into the headers. So if you do that, and if I go to create credentials, so you have to create a name, you have to create a value. So whenever your MCP client is referring to this MCP server, it will call that header with that particular name and with that value. So you can see this is where things get interesting. And for bearer token, we just send bearer and then the token. This is how we pass the MCP, like the request. So obviously you can set your own bearer auth, your own header auth, and you can give it to your MCP client and it will call this MCP server. So this is very simple and very easy to set up. Like if you can build an N8N workflow in under like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, then you can easily host your MCP server in under 1 minute. So if you have your N8N server already deployed, then it will cost you no extra money. But if you have not done hosting your N8N server, you can buy the N8N subscription or you can host it on Railway, which I have also done. So these are the two use cases and how to use N8N as hosting server for your MCP server. So first step is completed. Now let's come to the Next.js. Yes, you can build Next.js application and expose MCP routes to API routes, and it will use similar to that. So in N8N we were using server sent events, SAC. But in Next.js, we have option for streamable HTTP and server-side events both. So the modern framework is to use streamable HTTP, and server-side events are deprecated. So if you use streamable HTTP, and if you want to sell something, then obviously use Next.js. The reason is you can use Next.js for your own authentication server, your own authorization server. Your users will have your own single authentication ecosystem, so they don't have to jump here and there. So this is the one thing which you can use with Next.js. And how to use Next.js. So you can say this is the GitHub repository. Again, I will link this down in the description and in the comments. You can get this GitHub repository, and in this GitHub repository, I have covered how to build API routes. And in that API routes, you will get how to create the MCP API routes. So if I go to the API here in the app, if I go to the API, you can see this is the transport and this is the route. So if you go to the route, you can see this is how we are doing it. Again, our main item starts from here. So you can see we are using handler. We are like defining the handler with MCP auth. So I'm using better auth for my authorization server. I'm using OAuth here. I will also show you the example of how to use API key for authentication and authorization. So you can see again I'm checking whether that person has a subscription or not. That person has valid subscription or not. If there is no subscription, we send an error, and if there is subscription, we are just using console log for our own use case. Then we are creating MCP handler, and we are using versus MCP adapter so that it streamlines our data. Like we can write clean code. If you are using proper JSON RPC code, you have to like define every response like this, and it makes the code longer. It is harder to debug, but with Vercels MCP adapter, it gets easy. So you can see I'm using Vercels MCP adapter. This is the Vercel MCP adapter. So I'm creating the MCP handler, and you can see what are the tools I'm listing out. Then you can see in the end you will see how am I listing all the tools. So this is the tool definition I'm doing, like what are the tools we have. And if we go here, so you can see the capabilities. So these are the tools which we have for our MCP client. List to it, create thread, schedule to it, delete to it, post to it. And these are the tools we have created. These are nothing but the function which you can see here. So if I show this, so you can say we are getting the arguments, we are checking the rate limit. If it is successful, we add the community, and we are calling this function add community. And you can see we are calling this function, and this is the function which we are calling. So this is how you can streamline and see how you can sell it as a software as a service if you want to sell your MCP server as a software as a service. And I will also show you how you can skip the authenticate like the OAuth part, and you can use API keys. So if I go to this example, this branch, so you can see if I go to the SRC, then the API route, the app inside, and if I go to the API, and you can see the MCP with API key, you can just refer this. So again, here I am not using Vercels MCP adapter most probably. Let me see. Okay, yes. Here I am not using the Vercels MCP adapter. So if you want to build your own custom implementation, and if you don't want to use Vercels MCP adapter, you can use this. So here I am using API keys. Again, if you install this application and if you go to this route and install your application, you will get a dedicated page for your user where they will get to generate API keys, and that API keys we are using here to authorize. So if I go to the implementation directly, so let me go to the implementation. So you can see for every post request MCP client makes, we are using authenticate request. So if I go to this authenticate request, you can see this is the authenticate request. So we are checking the authorization header, and we are checking whether that peer token is containing or not. And if that token is matching, we are matching that API token. If it is user, we return the user. If it is not user, we return null. And if it is null, then it's an skin error. So this is something which you have to understand if you're using OAuth. authorization or maybe API key authorization. So this repository will help you understand everything which you need to understand. So you can see here I have used everything in the example. So you will get all the 3 examples of MCP and how to use them. So this is the feed MCP. This branch you have to go. So again, I will link down this GitHub repository which you can refer it. And let's understand the next part. So you have understand how to use Next.js and you know how to host Next.js. You can use container if you don't want to go for serverless environment. And if you go for serverless environment, there is options like Vercel, Cloudflare Workers, and you can host it there. So this is the second option. And again, Vercel gives you free access, free usage for up to like some invocation, some function invocation, some request, and it is generous free tier. So this is the Next.js which you can use. Now let's come to the third option, and that is Smithery.ai. So this is something which I discovered lately, and it is amazing. So if you don't want to get into the complexities of N10, if you don't want to get into the complexities of Next.js, and if you just want to build a dedicated MCP server, then this is the right place to host. So here, if you build anything in GitHub, and if you link it through here, so you can consider this is the Vercel for MCP servers. So this is how I can simplify it for you. So if I go to here, so you can see maybe Superbase MCP servers is hosted here, DuckDuckGo search server is hosted here. So if I go to DuckDuckGo search server, you can, if you want to use it directly into your MCP client, you can use it. So this is the URL you can generate, or if you want to see the source code, you can see the source code, and you can see this is the Python application which user has built, and you can read the code to understand how to build this one. And it works in the local as well. So if you install it directly in the local, it will work directly in the local, or if you want to use it with Smithery, you can use it with Smithery. So this is how it works, and this is a dedicated MCP server which you can build, and you don't have to maintain the authentication, you don't have to maintain the authorization, you don't have to maintain the server's cost. Smithery AI will take care of everything, and you can see this is how it is hosting. And if you want to deploy your own server, you can just go to deploy your server, continue with GitHub, and just run this, and it will create an MCP server for your own use case. And this is the third part which I wanted to cover, and we are left with the fourth part, and that is nothing but you can create containers, and that container is nothing but you can host it in Railway, renderfly.io. And again, whatever you saw in this repository, this can be hosted in a container. So you have to build a container, you have to manage the server, you have to manage the RAM, CPU, and everything like that. And you can host it in a different like dedicated server, and it will, and you can build your own authentication like with API keys or maybe OAuth. And for that OAuth, you need to bring one authorization server. So if you're building something in TypeScript, you can use BetterAuth, and it will do the work for you. So you can see how this is getting simplified and how you can know. So if you go to Railway, so I have my Railway dashboard. I will go and show you how you can use container. So I will continue with GitHub. Let's see whether I need the authentication code or not. So you can see how you can do it. So for example, if you go to the new, and you can deploy your own GitHub repo, or you can deploy a template. So with template, there are different templates. So this is not the thing which you want. Okay, let me go to new, and if I go to Docker, okay. So deploy from GitHub app, and you can configure GitHub app. So if you want to host something, and you need to write Docker file into your GitHub app. So this is one thing which you have to do. So if I just show you one example how to write Docker file. So I have written a Docker file here. Most probably, let me see. So if I go to Docker, so you can see a Docker file is written. So similar to this Docker file, you have to write your own Docker file, your own MCP server. And once you just import from GitHub, it will import it directly, and it will host it for you. So This is how you can use Railway. My favorite one is Railway again. So these are the four things and the four easiest methods to host MCP servers. Obviously, there are more methods, but these are the basics, the fundamentals, and once you've understood this, you can host it anywhere if you want. So I have shown you a third-party tool where you can host just like person dedicated for MCP service, and that is Smithery.ai. If you want to build something with containers with Dockerfile and you want to host it dedicated into your own server, you can use container and you can use Railway or you can use any VPS. If you want to use Next.js with your existing SaaS application, you can use Vercel or Cloudflare for hosting. And if you just want to use it for your own personal use case, I would say don't waste your time in building the code. Just give some time into N10 and host it in some VPS or maybe in Railway and use that N10 instance for your MCP server. So these are the four steps you can do to host your MCP servers, and this answers your all equation. So I will see you in the next video with another application or another implementation. Until then, bye guys.